Hi everyone, and now for all the people who have trailerable boats, I'm here with Ben and we're going to be looking at spring checks as you carry out both on your trailer and on your boat. Okay Ben, so where do we start?
Right, well, bear in mind the trailer probably hasn't been used since last autumn, so it's important to do some sensible checks on this to start with. So the first thing to really make sure is the hitch is okay. Obviously not been used for some time, the mechanism can seize up, and it's really important to make sure that when you connect this to the vehicle that it is actually secure. Generally there's always been a thing about a £50 loading on the front of the hitch, and you can adjust that, and we'll show you that in a minute with where the axle is. But this cable here is really important. This one here is actually, as you can see, is completely corroded and broken. The idea of this is if you're unfortunate enough that this is coming off the vehicle, the idea is this is meant to brake and pull this brake up rapidly. Unfortunately, it's that bad that it's actually completely corroded, and so I can take it off. So that's no good. What's really good is this has actually been left with the handbrake off and the wheels have been chocked, because one of the notorious things that happen with trailers is if you leave these with the brakes on, come spring when you try and pull away, the first thing is the brake pads have actually welded themselves to the inside of the brake shoes. So it's really good to see this done like this. But again, make sure the brakes are working. Take the car for a little journey, quietly round a corner somewhere, or in the boat park or something. Just make sure everything's working perfectly, because I remember one year I took my own boat out and put the brakes on and found the trailer going off to one side because only one brake pad was working. Connections of the tailboard, again this one's got in system where it clips in from here and runs down to the trailer board at the back, which we're going to have a look at. And then you've got your jockey wheel, and another classic one is, I'm sure you've all seen the jockey wheel self-destructing as it goes along the road. It's dropped down and this is then running. So again, make sure it comes up well up into the housing here. And what I always say to people is wind this right up and make sure that it's actually jammed in here. And if you do it tight enough, there's no way can it actually then start to turn and unwind in this area, because it can't physically make a turn. So when you leave it down below here and then it can turn, that's when they start to wind themselves when you're travelling along on the road. So that's a really useful one.
That's a really good tip. That's one that not many people will know about. Yeah. What about just this on this electric cable here?
Oh yeah, well, obviously all this needs a bit of sorting out. But as I say, this is the connection. If I actually pull it out, this would be the connection to go into the back of the car. So that's just where it's been put to keep it dry and keep all the connections nice and clean. The winch recovery, again, it's good to see a strap on here rather than a cable. I absolutely hate metal cables, so again it's really good. What's really nice is they've also got a secondary, because I've seen before now these have bounced off, the clip's gone and the boat has launched itself off the trailer behind the car down the motorway. So having a secondary thing there is really good. The boat is actually supported on what's called a roller coaster trailer, in the sense where it's a load of rollers. So if this was to fail and you hadn't got the straps on the back properly, it would wind itself off quite quickly. This is also quite good to see that there's a serial number on the trailer. It's always worth making sure you've got the serial numbers written down somewhere, because if the trailer was to be stolen, and they're quite easy to steal, it's a good bit of identification here that this is this trailer for you guys.
And would you suggest taking a photograph of it, keeping it on your phone, all that sort of thing?
Yeah. At least then you, guys as insurance, have got some way of trying to find these things later. Let's go and have a look at the back of the trailer as well. So on this one, you've got plenty of adjustment to make sure that the boat is actually correctly supported. So you've got these here on the U-bolts, which you can move up and down, so the boat is actually properly supported. And likewise, even the axle can be adjustable, so you can actually then achieve that correct loading on the hitch. Here's one of the places to put your straps at the back here. You've got the strap here to go over, obviously with ribs. I always say to people, use a bit of carpet or something when you're travelling to stop the chafing of the strap. And then the last thing, which again is a classic one, is make sure that these things work. This is for your trail board, so this will come out to about there, and then you wind that off. And before now I've seen people lose these bits of metal down the road because they haven't clamped them off properly, and the car behind you swerving to avoid it. So make sure you put them on properly and make sure they clamp and they are secure. So again, when you've got your trailer board out, a couple of important bits here is make sure it comes out to a point about here, because obviously you've got the outboard sticking out the back. Make sure you check your lights, your brakes and indicators. And again, this propeller should have a bag on it before this goes on the road. That's really important. You can buy a proper orange pop bag, so people driving up behind you are aware it's sticking out the back. The other classic one is obviously the wheel bearings. Some systems have flushing systems where you connect a hose and it washes out the bearings. A lot of people have sealed bearings. The easiest way to see what's going on is give them a little rock. If you can feel a bit of rocking going on, then you know there's a problem with the bearing. And a lot of them do have a grease pump facility. This one unfortunately hasn't. So this is probably a sealed bearing in this one. And then just again, if you haven't used the vehicle for a long period of time, the trailer for a long period of time, there's always a risk of perishing of the rubber where it sits like this and bows out. So if you're leaving the boat for a long period of time, you'll see some people will put some little supports under the trailer, so it's taking the weight off the wheel, which is always a good move as well. And obviously if you're going on board the boat, bear in mind the fact that there's nothing to counterbalance the back end. So again, if you're going on board a boat, just put a block or something underneath the rear axle there, so the boat doesn't tip up while you're on it. So this cover is a really good cover in the way it's fitted. Really nice sensible clips which clip onto the actual sponson of the boats on the gunnel rubber here, which is I think a really clever idea. Obviously we've had some pretty strong winds and it's still here. The really important thing with covers is it keeps the internals dry. If you look at the cover next to us, you can see this great big pool of water. But what's quite sad is the fact there's a vent here, and really it doesn't take an awful lot more water to get in to fill that vent up, so all the water's going inside the boat, which 6 months the whole point of the cover's been completely defeated. So it's really important if you're doing a cover like this to actually have a hard back and make sure the cover's tight enough that it actually deflects the water off and it can't allow it to pull.